A formative assessment can be thought of using this acronym, which is to inform. Again, a formative assessment is for you, the teacher, to get a sense of whether or not the students are grasping the concept or the concepts. A formative assessment will inform your next teaching steps. Often, a formative assessment is fast and ongoing. So it might be a question that students can answer in a minute or two. And it could be ongoing in the sense that you're going to ask a number of questions throughout the duration of the lesson. Now, again, a formative assessment should reach all students. It's not just a matter of asking one or two students a question, but rather having a data point to evaluate whether or not all the students are grasping the content. And lastly, the formative assessment should align directly with your learning goal, your objective, your WALT, which should also align with the standard. Okay, examples of formative assessments can include the following. A classic one is a hold up, where students can hold up a dry erase board or a colored piece of paper and share their answers. Typically, this is anonymous if you're asking the students to share their answers and all look forward so they can't look at each other's answers. Observations are opportunities for teachers to walk around with a checklist and assess whether students are participating, whether they're engaged, and whether they are able to grasp the skills and content knowledge. Centers are opportunities for us to formatively evaluate whether students are meeting the learning goals by eavesdropping in to their conversations to see whether they are understanding the task. There are other activities such as sorting or matching that we can ask students to do, and then we can get a sense of whether or not they're meeting the goal. We can also ask students to do a quick write. Think, pair, share is another one where students are asked to stop and think or write and then pair up with a partner and then share out their responses. And again, the teacher can walk around the room and get a sense of whether the students are meeting the goal. We can also have students use graphic organizers, 1-minute papers, and lastly, audience responses. Audience responses can be similar to a holdup, but they often involve technology. So in this tutorial, I'm going to share a number of audience response. Again, I want to remind us that we want to make sure that our formative assessments are evaluating the learning goal, and the learning goal should be evaluating a standard. So these are some examples of audience response tools that we can use. I'm going to begin with the Jamboard. The Jamboard is an interactive whiteboard. You're going to need to go into your Drive. And again, if you're working for a school district, you want to make sure that your school district has the capability to do this. Now, in your Drive, you're going to click on New. And then you have to scroll down to More to find the option for Jamboard. Now, when creating a Jamboard, you should always begin by titling it. So we can title this Social Studies Activity. I really like setting the backgrounds, so you can create on Canva or even in Word some kind of a template. And now this template is going to stay in place. List a topic. So let's write down America's involvement in World War I, if this is the topic we're learning in class. And then I could ask students to quickly grab a sticky note and write a note signing their name or anonymous, depending on how you want to do this, whether they were for America's involvement in World War I or against it. Now, what this does is allow students total participation. Everyone can answer the question at the same time. Quick tip, remember when you share anything on Google, you need to make sure your link is something that can be shared with anyone and that everyone can be the editor. All right, the next tool we're going to talk about is a Google form. Now, a Google form is also something that can be created in your Drive. You're going to click here for Google Form. And now again, you want to start off by titling it. So you can title it whatever you might need to. So I have here math quiz. And then my questions were, what is your name? What is 2 times 6? What is 3 times 5? So these were the questions that I was going to have the class work on. Now, remember when using Google Forms and making it a quiz, you have to go to settings. Settings are 3 over. You can click to make this a quiz. And you can release the grades immediately after each submission or later after a manual review. There are pros and cons to each approach. Now, when you create your questions, you can make this self-graded so that you don't actually have to do the grading. So you would put a number of responses, and then you would add the option for answer key. And this is where you're going to check off the correct answer. And you also have an opportunity to add feedback. So you could let students getting the correct answer know why it was the correct answer or the incorrect answer. You could share out. You could also share a link to a video. Or now, once you have all the results, you're now going to have access to data that you can analyze to see which students are meeting the standards and which ones need more support. If I were using this as a formative assessment in my math classroom, I might then create groups based on the students that are still struggling versus the students who are able to move on to the next task. Now, the students who are still struggling, I need more information from them. I need to know their process. I need to know their misconceptions. This formative assessment was a quick snapshot to give me a sense of who's grasping it and who's not grasping it. A formative assessment doesn't always answer the question of why they were able to or not able to grasp it, particularly if it's multiple choice. So in this case, if I were to look at the formative assessment from February 1st, I might now pick my group based on the students who struggled. So this would be Mateo, who received a 2 out of 4, Raphael, Layla, Maya, and perhaps even Jamal. So this is now how I would create my group to then provide an intervention and additional support. Now, Plickers is another form of a formative assessment. To create a Plickr account, you're going to need to go to plickers.com and set up a username and password. Now, once you're in Plickers, you can have a class list. So if you're a middle school teacher, you can have different classes, and then you're going to have a library of your different Plickr cards that you've created. So to create a new Plickers set of questions, you would click on New Set. Now you can copy and paste, or you can type in whatever the questions are going to be. Perhaps it's the same as before. What is 4 times 5? And then you could have a number of options, 20 and 20. Once you've determined the correct answer, you'll color that as green. You can share this set with your students in 3 different ways. You can teach the class. So you can teach the class remotely. So you're going to play now. I'm going to give it to this class. These are my students. There's 3 ways to use Plickers. The first way is called cards mode. This is the standard view. So this is what you would project in the classroom with your students, and you would use your phone to scan the results, and the students would not see who got them right or wrong. E-learning is a private view that you would use if you were teaching from home remotely, and hybrid mode is a way to view your screen and share with students, and they will not see each other's results. To show you what that might look like, these are kids holding the QR codes up, and then the teacher is going to use their cell phone to basically scan the entire room. I would say, in my experience, this can be done in about 30 seconds. Not everyone lifts at the same time, so you might want to say to the students, give them a timer and say, don't lift yet. Now everybody lift in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when they're holding them up, you're going to have to teach them how to hold them steady so that you can get a quick snapshot of how everyone's doing. As you can see here, it will highlight the names of the students. And if they have red, they got the question wrong. And if they got green, they got the question correct. Okay, formative is a bit fancier. Okay, with formative, you can create new questions from scratch, or you can use a PDF or document that already exists and scan it in, or import either a Google Doc or Google Slides. There's also the capability to enhance a video, which I haven't explored much yet, but that seems like a great option if you're teaching asynchronously. So when you create what's called a new formative, you would click the plus button here. You now have options for all the different types of question types. Whereas Plickers, you could only do multiple choice questions. With Formative, you can have short answer. So you'd be able to understand their process much more. You can have students respond with audio. So if you're evaluating fluency, you could have all the students in the class read the same passage, and that way you'd be able to hear their fluency. You can have them upload images. I really like, for the younger grades, the drag and drop option. There's fill in the blank. I would write my question here. What is 4 times 5? That this is short answer, so I can add the correct answer. And then I can have another one here. What is 3 times 5? And again, I can type in the correct answer, add an answer choice. So I can have the answer choice 2, 3, 6, and 8. Now I can assign this. This can be student paste. Now I'm going to copy and paste this hyperlink, and I'm going to go into a different account so we can see what this looks like from the student perspective. I'm going to add my name. Okay, now here's the question. So I'm going to type 20. Right, and now I have one incomplete answer. I'm going to submit it anyway. All right, so now I can see that Liz B got all of the questions correct. Okay, so that's Formative. Finally, Ziplet. Now with Ziplet, it's very similar to Formative, except a lot of the questions are preset. So you can choose from questions that already exist. And then I can share it with students, giving them the code, and they can just type the code right into ziplet.com-go. I'm going to share my first name, and now I'm going to answer the questions, and then send my response. So for 3 times 6, I'm going to click on this question. I can see a visual graph of what answers the students select. Okay, so that's just a snapshot for today.